What do a king horseshoe bat, a king mole rat, and a king bird of paradise all have in common? Their names all start with the word king. I'm Nathan with Kids Enjoying Jesus, and I want to show you a fun Bible game called King of the Animals that uses some pretty cool critters to teach kids about God the King. Let's get started. Roar! Did you know that the name Tyrannosaurus Rex actually means Tyrant Lizard King? But that doesn't really make T-Rex king of the dinosaurs, does it? No, it doesn't. T-Rex wasn't actually the king of the dinosaurs. In fact, it wasn't even close to the biggest dinosaur that ever existed. But I do want to talk to you about the king of all the animals everywhere, even king of T-Rex. I'm going to show you some pictures of animals, and I want you to see if you can guess their names before I tell you what they are. And I'll give you a hint. They all have the word king in their name. Are you ready? What's this animal called? This first one is a bird, a rather pretty shiny bird with a big beak. Animal number one is a kingfisher. What about this next animal? It's a reptile with a forked tongue. Animal number two, can you guess what it is before I tell you? Animal number two is a king cobra. What about animal number three? It's a little bird, kind of a poofy little bird. What do you think it's called? Time's up. This is a king quail. What about animal number four? Animal number four is a large bird with no feathers on its head, but a kind of brightly colored head. Can you guess what it's called? This is a king vulture. What about animal number five? Animal number five is a pretty fish with some fancy fins. Can you guess what it's called? This is a king angelfish. How about animal number six? Animal number six is a penguin, obviously, but what do you think the rest of its name is? This is a king penguin. And animal number seven. Animal number seven is a pretty incredible and kind of weird looking animal with really strange long legs. It looks kind of like a spider that lives underwater, but it's not a spider. This is a king crab. Animal number eight. Animal number eight isn't shiny and isn't big. Can you guess what this bird's name is? This bird is a kingbird. And now it's time for our last animal, animal number nine. Animal number nine is a pretty colored snake. Lots of different stripes and bands of color on it. Can you guess what it's called? This is a king snake. Can you believe these are all names of real animals? Some of these animals have the word king in their name because they're the biggest, strongest, or fanciest of their kind. But does that really make them the king? Do you think the other penguin species serve or obey the king penguin? If the king penguin says, "Oh," do the other penguins obey it? No. Do the other quail obey the king quail? No. But there is a real king who rules over every animal on earth. The Bible tells us who it is. It says, "But ask the beasts, and they will teach you, the birds of the heavens, and they will tell you, or the bushes of the earth, and they will teach you, and the fish of the sea will declare it to you. Who among all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In his hand is the life of every living thing, and the breath of all mankind." God is much greater than any animal or any other king ever. God is over all and in charge of everyone and everything. The animals he created show off how wise and powerful he is. No other king could create spiders that spin silk that's stronger than steel. No other king could create dinosaurs with leg bones taller than I am. No other king could create cuttlefish that can instantly change the color and shape of their skin. God is king. Can you say that with me and pretend to put a crown on your head? God is king. Since God created the animals, he has the right to be in charge of them. He's their true king, and our king too. We should admire him and honor him as the greatest king ever. God is the creator, and he's the king. Let's take another look at some of those animals we saw earlier and learn a bit about them. When I ask, who is the king of this animal, you say, God is king. Are you ready? First, let's look at the kingfisher. The kingfisher is a pretty small bird with a sharp beak that dives down into water to catch fish underwater. This bird will sometimes even dive through thin ice to catch fish underneath the ice. It's pretty impressive, but does that make it the king of the kingfishers? Who is the king of the kingfishers? God is king. What about the King Cobra? The King Cobra is the largest venomous snake on Earth. This snake can get up to 18 feet long, and it eats other snakes. In fact, this snake eats other cobras. But does that really make it the king of the cobras? Who is the king of the King Cobra? God is king. What about the king quail? The king quail is actually the smallest species of quail, so it definitely didn't get its name for its size. How do you think it got its name? Maybe it's from its kind of fancy colors for a quail. I'm not sure, but I know it's not really the king. Who is king of the king quail? God is king. What about the king vulture? A king vulture eats dead animals, and sometimes it watches smaller vultures because the king vulture is one of the largest types of vultures. It watches for smaller vultures, and when the smaller vultures find a dead animal and start to eat it, the king vulture swoops in, scares the smaller vultures away, and the king vulture gets to eat first. But does that make it the king of the vultures? Who's the king of the vultures? God is king. What about the king angelfish that lives underwater? Maybe it gets its name from the pretty colors on its fins, or maybe its fancy fins. I'm not quite sure. But I do know that the adult angelfish and the younger king angelfish have different color patterns on their fins. But do you think they get to choose what they're going to look like? They're not king over their own body. God is the one who chooses what they look like. Who is king of the angelfish? God is king. And what about the king penguin? The king penguin is the second largest species of penguin in the world. But is it really in charge of the penguins? Is it really king? No. Who is king of the king penguin? God is king. And what about the king crab? The king crab is pretty impressive. Its body can get to be about 1 foot across, and it can have a leg span of up to 5 feet. That's pretty impressive and maybe even a little creepy to some people, but does that make it the king of the crabs or the king of anything? No. Who is the king of the king crab? God is king. What do you think about the king bird? The king bird isn't very big or very colorful. It gets its name from being really aggressive and territorial. This little bird will attack hawks, crows, cats, and other stuff that comes into its territory and drive it away. It's a pretty bossy bird, but does that make it the king? No. Who is king of the kingbird? God is king. And who is king of the king snake? The king snake is a non-venomous snake, so its bite isn't dangerous, but it eats other snakes. That's why it's called the king snake. But that doesn't make it the boss of snakes. Who is king of the king snakes? God is king. These are just a few of the amazing animals God made to show what an awesome creator and king he is. There's no one else like God. God is over all and in charge of everyone and everything. Why don't you take some time today to learn about more animals he created and thank him for being such an awesome king? Maybe you could even color or draw a picture of an animal he created and hang it on your wall or fridge to remind you God is an awesomely wonderful and incredibly powerful king. Thanks for watching. If you'd like instructions to help you lead this animal object lesson with kids in your home or Sunday school, you can find it in our book, Enjoying God My King. It's got more than 90 ideas to help you teach kids about God, the King. You can download a free copy at kidsenjoyingjesus.com. The animal pictures you saw in this video are available as a PowerPoint slideshow in our resource bundle for Enjoying God My King, which is also available at kidsenjoyingjesus.com. But before you go to kidsenjoyingjesus.com to get all this great stuff, please take a second to subscribe to our channel, give our video a thumbs up, and share it with some of your friends. Thanks for watching.